right. Well, we talked a little bit about the chairperson on that board. Now we want to touch base a little bit with the secretary. And so um, my first thought is when you appoint a secretary, it'd be a good idea to have an alternate secretary appointed because really that chairperson should not be the secretary. They should be there to preside over the meeting and concentrate on the issues at hand. And, obviously notes need to be taken. And if it's you and one other person, then maybe you might have to do it as a chairperson. But traditionally, it should not be the chairperson having to take the meeting notes and the minutes.
I really like that. That's something that I haven't heard of before, but it's brilliant to have somebody that way. Hey, I'm not going to be there, which means we already know ahead of time that George is my alternate secretary. And so if I'm not there to take minutes, then George is the one automatically doing that instead of you, Lyle, the chairperson, having to take it over. But if we're both gone, then of course you get to do it then, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Good. I like that idea. What else is the secretary responsible for?
Meeting notices. My gosh, how do you know when you're going to have a meeting without a notice?
That's not the chairperson's responsibility?
That's the secretary needs to send out the notice with the both the agenda and the minutes from the previous meeting, and far enough ahead so people have some time to reflect on both schedule the meeting and review the minutes. So that needs to be set out somewhat in advance of the meeting.
Like 2 hours? Maybe 2 days.
Maybe in somebody's faster world than mine.
What would you say is a good time?
4 days.
At minimum, what?
4 days.
4 days. I think that's fair. Gives people enough time, especially if they're busy and they've got jobs. Not everybody checks their emails that frequently. And so being able to have it enough in advance, that way if somebody's got some questions, maybe you can clear something up before the meeting happens, or do you actually get to the meeting? So, okay, so now you've told me that the secretary, we gotta have an alternate secretary, and it's the secretary's job, not the chairperson's job, to send out the notice of when the meetings are. What about just keeping track of the meeting?
That is the secretary's responsibility. First off is to take attendance and record attendance for who is at the meeting. And then maintaining the records and taking good notes throughout the meeting of things that were discussed, decisions that were made, votes that were made, numbers of votes, yay and nay. And then maintaining those records and either so that they can be referenced back to clarify anything, or just having a way for those that couldn't be in attendance to either catch up and not being so vague as to where then they have to come find you and clarify things. So adding as much detail as you can oftentimes will avoid future questions, and yeah, the more clarity, the better.
So in maintaining the records, like organization of them, is it then the secretary's job to get a copy of it to the city clerk? Or what is, I guess, after I'm done with the meeting, and what happens with those minutes? They have to be approved at the next meeting, and then what?
Biggest thing is you've taken all that time and effort to just hold your meeting and potentially make some motions and all that important stuff. So you want to make sure that you're filing that with chairperson and city clerk and any other people that are outlined in your stuff ahead of time to make it permanent record, and make sure it's there to not only look back on as what was talked about and decided, but additionally there's potentially other grants, funding, other things that are tied to those minutes. So just making sure that stuff's all filed and in the right place after. Like I said, you don't want to go through all that time and effort and not have it be worthwhile. So make sure you're getting that submitted and finalized and put where you need it to after you've done all your hard work.
we always talk about the word transparency, and this is one of the great avenues to keep our community informed is to what the tree board is doing is through our minutes, and that's very important that we have accurate minutes as well as minutes submitted, in a timely manner.
I was gonna say, so I'm a busy person and you assigned me a secretary because I can type fast on a computer. But what happens if I don't get to those minutes right away after the meeting? I mean, is that something that I absolutely just need to prioritize? Or can I wait until the day before, or sorry, George, 4 days before the next meeting and have those minutes kind of tidied up so that way everybody can review so they can be approved? I mean, is that just poor practice?
You need to prioritize some of that, or at least communicate to others if you can't get to it in a timely manner so somebody can get it done. And if there's things that need to be acted upon at the next meeting, obviously you want that filed so people can reference and do what they need to do to be informed and make the decisions they need to going forward.
That's helpful. I think of the secretary being just a one-person job. And I guess I like that this conversation, Lyle, you mentioning having an alternate secretary, or Todd, if I can't get to it, like lean on your other tree board members to remember what happened in the conversation if you don't get it recorded right there in the moment. Is there anything else about the secretary role that we should know about?
Say once again, just being supportive of each other as far as organization of records and some of that. Some of the past stuff I've been involved with, there's a crate that gets carried around that has a lot of the records and some of that in there. So just being supportive and understanding that note taking and some of that stuff comes in different forms, and being supportive of this position that they're doing a lot to help support the group.
So you're saying that whether my organization method is a crate or a folder binder, like what Caden has put together for me in the past, where he's got a 3-ring binder with pages of what we're doing for the Fall Free Tree Grant, both are acceptable.
Correct. Comes in all forms, but
As long as it gets the job done, records what we need recorded, and like Heather said, you get a copy that is filed at the city office. So that way you can reflect on those, especially when really big decisions are made. And it also shows that your tree board is active and kind of gets you, regularly in front of your city clerk and your city office, and maintaining that relationship with them too.
Mm-hmm.
Good. The secretary doesn't sound as scary as the chairperson position, but I think that there's still good resources that we had mentioned before. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. That was great.